Okay, hi, and welcome to today's segment of the Third Testament Foundation live stream. And it's gonna be a short one today. I have chosen one section of the Third Testament Book of Life, Volume 1, Section 110, uh, where Martinez talks about um, what we're gonna use instead of money as the planet evolves. Basically, he says that um, the planet Earth, um, which we see here, um, he likens it to. He says like it's like planet Earth has been given to terrestrial mankind in the same way that you throw a piece of meat to predators. And what the predators do to the meat is kind of what has happened to the planet with the resources of the planet. So all the resources of the planet is given to humanity, but the distribution or allocation of these resources is totally predatorial. So every man for himself, whoever can hoard the most. Like if you throw a piece of meat to predators, that's the principle he's talking about here, and and that's how we are enslaved by the monetary system. And what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about all these privately owned banks that are just hoarding all the resources of the planet that is actually given to humanity and not to private individuals, right? So how do we create this new distribution system for planet Earth? And there's certain things that are going on in the world. We see, for example, the Federal Reserve is being more or less nationalized by the Treasury in the United States, and that's a step forward because the Treasury is a state organ, run not privately held. So if we have a government that is of the people, for the people, by the people, we actually have a people's bank in the Treasury, right? So but there's still a lot of privately held banks that still are in charge of the money creation on the planet, so that's not the future. So let's read what Martinez says we should use as payment instead of money, because eventually he says the planet will be free of money. So we see symbolically here how this planet Earth is in the orange zone, which symbolizes the zone of the animal kingdom, and it's going into the yellow zone. It's going counterclockwise in its evolution, and in the spiral cycle, going through all the 6 realms denoted by these 6 colors. But interesting to us is as we're moving, as the planet is moving into the real human kingdom, the entrance to which is this star symbolizing cosmic consciousness, the birth of the intuition, um, birth of intuition body, going out of its latent state, and that's what we talked about in the last one. We see how Earth right now is in the orange, which means mostly orange, but it's tapering off, right? So we get more and more yellow, which means we get more and more love energy, less and less killing energy. That means more and more uh, 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 every man for each other, and less every man for himself, right? So the law of the animal is every man for himself. The law of the real human kingdom is every one for each other, right? Neighborly love. So inevitably, the planet will reach the star and go beyond. So we will have more and more neighborly love, symbolized by yellow. So it is inevitable that the planet will evolve out of the animal kingdom. which means also that the monetary system must evolve out of the animal kingdom, where it's every man for himself, right? Whoever can get the most money has the most wealth. So this distribution of the resources of the planet, how do we do that without a monetary system that is of the animal kingdom? How do we make a currency system or payment system that is not based of the law of the animal? So let's read. Of course, all symbols are covered at Martinez Institute. So let's read what Martinez says in this section. All private assets will gradually become the property of the world state. Okay, so the world state, let's just, he talks about world state and world government and stuff like that. So that in the future, the whole planet will become like one country with different provinces. And that doesn't mean it's a centralized system. It means that it's a world state that's not corrupt, like we have nation states that are corrupt today, run by corrupt individuals. The world state will be run by very evolved beings that know what's best for everybody on the planet. Okay, so world state here to Martinez is a good thing. It's not like a new world order kind of thing. It's a good thing, the world state. So all private assets, so we were talking about the future, all private assets will gradually become the property of the world state as development progresses. So finally, there will only remain on Earth but one single property owner or capitalist, namely United Terrestrial Humanity. Originally, humanity was presented with the world as a gift in order to bring it into subjection. But when people first received this gift, they were at the animal kingdom stage, and consequently, they received the world, as is obvious from the above, like animals. That is to say, the strongest and most cunning individuals took possession not only for their rightful share of the gift, but also a large portion of those parts which rightfully belong to other individuals, individuals who were inferior in strength and in greed. So, terrestrial humanity appropriated the world in the same way as beasts of prey seize a chunk of meat. So that's the part I thought was kind of interesting. The strongest animals will take all of it, utterly indifferent as to whether their less powerful fellows thereby starve to death. Since terrestrial humanity has not come to an end of receiving the gift of the world in this manner, existing in our day as a struggle for valuable goods, which again results in private property, capital, and wealth for some people, and poverty, need, and misery for others. Then we have here a proof that terrestrial humanity is still within the territory of the animal kingdom and has not yet succeeded in bringing the world into subjection. It has not mastered the skill of sharing. It has not yet been able to guarantee or organize that every single individual receives his rightful inherited share of the divine gift. Therefore, when all private possessions or valuable goods in the world change over to become world state property, It will simply mean that this sharing has now become part of the culture. As the world then is a gift for the whole of mankind, naturally this does not mean that some private individual persons have been presented exclusively with the coal mines, others with the oil wells, and others again with the gold and diamond mines or other mineral deposits as their private property, and therefore can have the right to make themselves business kings or magnates in these fields, and so monopolize them, thus hindering the rest of mankind's access to the necessities of life in question. However, as the latter are nevertheless still being appropriated by such stock exchange magnates who are only interested in keeping a rate of exchange or price quotation continually rising and falling exactly in accordance with the very highest price the community can be compelled to pay, then here we see once more that might is not united with right. Might and not right decides the price of the necessities of life. That there were people who had the initiative to set up mining industries and manufacturing concerns is actually a divine fact, and disharmony only appears when the people in question at the same time stage masked robbery or begin to lay their hands on profit in the form of valuable goods for which they do not contribute anything in return. So we see all these business kings, magnates, tycoons like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, how they have this hugely disproportionate amount of wealth. It's staggering the amount of money that they have, right? So, and how did they get that? Like, if you have license on a software, like everybody on the planet is going to use the software, and you get money for every one of that. That's work you haven't done, and you're getting. So there's something wrong in the distribution system here, right? So as the world's mineral deposits have come into existence without the cost of a single penny. So it says like, yeah, the mines are already there, yeah? They're there. Nobody had to make them. So it didn't cost a single penny or a single drop of sweat from terrestrial humanity. It has been given these commodities in the same way as it has been given the air it breathes. Therefore, no terrestrial persons will have the smallest cosmic right to take payments for minerals or other materials, for if they did so, they would be receiving valuable goods for which they had not given anything in exchange. Only when they have processed the animal in such a way that it has become an asset to terrestrial humanity can payment be due to them. Such payment cannot be a payment for the material itself, but on the contrary only payment for the work necessary for rendering that material useful. Thus, this work will obviously become the only real value with which terrestrial mankind should pay for the necessities of life. So here is the new currency, right? Work. Work is the new currency. Personally rendered work is the new currency. That way you can't make money off of other people's work. So it's only your own work, and it has to be able to enrich the raw materials that are here given freely, right, on the planet. So thus this work will obviously become the only real value with which terrestrial mankind should pay for the necessities of life. But as mentioned above, because no terrestrial person has done any work for the existence of material substances on Earth, and those material substances are really the property of all terrestrial people, then they cannot be used as justifiable payment for any work done. Work can only be paid with work. So this is kind of cementing his way of explaining how we pay with work, right? You cannot pay with some diamonds you find because you didn't put any work into it. So work can only be paid with work. A very interesting currency. The only genuine method of payment in the world, therefore, is solely a person's useful work or creative product. Thus, every normal terrestrial person who comes into the world as a natural innate has a natural innate faculty for payment. In the world state, this inborn faculty for payment will come into its own properly and will be protected by law, and as explained later, any possibility of misuse or exploitation will be entirely ruled out. In the world state, an individual's own personal and useful work effort will then be the sole existent method of payment. Here he kind of underlines it one more time. Indeed, as the world state gains possession of the valuable goods, money will gradually disappear from the face of the earth. So, inevitably, this is our future as a planet, right? In the world state, an individual's own personal and useful work effort will then be the sole existent method of payment. And that's why money will disappear. So, we have the planet, and as it moves out of the animal kingdom, we will see less and less money and more of this new currency of work, where work was once personally rendered work is the method of payment. We see how the systems, the monetary systems today are starting to move in that direction, right? With the central banks being nationalized under the world state, or the nation states to begin with now. And eventually we'll see that the resources of the planet will be given, maybe in a transitional period, as payments. Like maybe you will have a check for $1,200 or something every month, or I don't know, for you to get access to the resources that are there. But the most important thing is that these systems of enrichment, where individuals can enrich themselves through these systems of monetary systems that are existent on the planet now, it has to be dismantled in order for the distribution of the goods to be just. There's justice. We need this justice in the monetary system to get back. So how it's gonna all happen, and I don't know, but sooner or later we will see this law of the real human kingdom. Every man for his neighbor will come to fruition in our society, and I think we're going a bright future. Well, a bright future is awaiting us. And on that note, I thank you for today, and see you next time on the live stream. And take care now. See you soon.